Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Escucha. It's Abby Herrera, and welcome back to a brand new episode. And I actually have a very special guest here with me today.
Hello.
Who are you? What's your name?
Hello. My name is Leila, and I am the editor-in-chief of ENYE.
Yes. So we have a very special episode for you today. We are going to be discussing the Spring 2025 ENYE launch on this episode, and we have our editor-in-chief here to give us all the details about it.
Yay.
So Leila, you are our editor-in-chief, but you are also a senior. So this is your last semester being our captain, pretty much, of the magazine. And of the podcast, too, because you manage me.
Well, you're really self-sufficient. You're like the one part of the entire process that I don't worry about, I would say. You and our social girlies.
Yeah.
You guys are very self-sufficient.
Yeah, the three of us are just kind of like cycling with each other all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So how does it feel being your last semester?
I think it's really scary to leave, as it is for all seniors, to know that after this I have to go out there and get a real job and do real adult things. I'm also excited, though. This past weekend we had the ACP conference, the Associated Collegiate Press conference, and ENYE did a really great job. We got 5 awards, so I'm very proud of us. And I think before, my goal was to just wrap up this year nicely and just find a new EIC, new Emmy, and so on and so forth. But now I have this additional goal of really setting us up to do more and do better next year at the ACP conference, but also in producing more, just doing everything that we do currently, but better. I want to help whoever follows my footsteps and comes into my role to have less bumps in the road or hardships to overcome. So I think now I am more excited for our future and for whoever comes and joins our team.
Right. Because this isn't the first time we've had Leila on the podcast. She actually made an appearance in our first ever Escucha episode right before I actually joined the team, which was so funny because the story behind that is that I was hired, but I was hired right as they were recording that episode.
Yes.
So my first episode ever is episode 2. So Leila and I didn't meet until after episode 1. But that was your first semester as EIC. And you talked about how excited what the mission was. And how do you feel you've accomplished everything that you've said?
Honestly, I don't really remember everything I talked about. Maybe I should have rewatched my own episode. But I think, how do I say this? I do remember talking about how I wanted to help ENYE to grow bigger. And I wouldn't say it's me specifically doing those things, but rather the people that I've selected to be on ENYE that have made that happen. Like our social media team has done a really good job this whole year. They're very self-sufficient. I don't really have to tell them or remind. I think they remind me more often that we need something to go up on Instagram than I remind them. And it's the same with you. When Megan first joined the team and we were really starting to figure out the podcast, I was like, I honestly don't know how to tell you what to do, because it's not that our podcast didn't exist, but rather it was not very consistent, and we didn't seem to really have any sort of outline or format or template like we do for social media or for stories or for the website. Yeah. So I was like, you could do whatever you want. As long as it's appropriate and follows the guidelines of the majority of the things that we publish online or in the magazine. Yeah. And then you joined the team too. And then Megan was like, this is great. Abby's great. We have this great chemistry. Everything's going good. We're very productive now. And I was like, that's great. And then I just didn't have to worry about it for the rest of the year, which I'm so grateful for, because every time we're in the middle of magazine production and I have to look at all these things to do, I'm like, at least my social media and my podcast are doing good. So,
yeah.
So I feel like rather than me, myself, it's the people that I have brought on that I'm so thankful to, because I have all of you on my team. We are doing the things that I wanted to and being able to produce all this content and grow as a publication.
Mm-hmm. Right. So to our listeners that aren't familiar with ENYE, because we do have some off-campus listeners, so there might be people that don't exactly know what the magazine is or what we were before. So can you explain what ENYE is? What is the identity? What is the name, pretty much, and what is its mission?
Yeah, so in 2019, I believe, is when ENYE officially started, but we were functioning under a different name, Dig en Español. So on campus at CSULB, we have Dig magazine. They just go by Dig now. And they've been around for a very long time. They've undergone their own fair share of rebrands. Mm-hmm. But the reason that we were Dig en Español is because Professor Teresa Puente, who is the advisor and the creator of ENYE, she wanted to make a Spanish language publication. And when she originally pitched it, it was rejected. I don't recall the specific reasons why, but someone advised to her, well, what if you just tell them it's Dig, but in Spanish? So she did that, and then it got approved.
Right.
Really annoying, because it's not that we are nothing like Dig. I would say we're both magazines. We're sister publications. Mm-hmm. We share an office. But we have a different goal than Dig. So last year, Brianna, who was the former EIC, along with Genix and their team, decided that they wanted to change things, because it's not that Dig en Español was not us, but rather it wasn't really an accurate representation of our mission, which is to write stories about the Latinx community and to highlight these parts of the community that aren't always highlighted, to really expand our coverage of the community, because there's very specific narratives in mainstream media that you'll see about the Latinx community. It's harder to find these stories that explore these other identities that the Latinx community has. Mm-hmm. So that is why we underwent the rebrand of ENYE, and also because last year in the fall, we switched to being bilingual.
Right.
So before we were only in Spanish, but then we had this realization that not all Latinos speak Spanish or read Spanish. Mm-hmm. So in order to reach those communities and then also reach everyone else who doesn't speak Spanish, we would do the bilingual format. Mm-hmm. And so ENYE, being like the phonetic spelling, I think not only it captures the Spanish-speaking side, but also the English-speaking side with the phonetic spelling.
Right, because now people know how to pronounce it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not ENYE. I had a professor that thought we were called ENYE, like the artist.
It ends in an E.
I know, it ends in an E. It's not that difficult. I feel it's a microaggression if you say otherwise. Because it's spelled out for you. Quite literally.
I would phonetically. Phonetically spelled out for you.
Yeah. And I was coming in when ENYE had first started. I came in fall 2024. So I was a part of your first semester as EIC. And that was really cool, just seeing that whole development, because you had all these new ideas. And I didn't know what Dig en Español was when I came here. And I feel like I still don't know what it is because of how different our identity is from what I've been told Dig en Español was. So what is the mission with ENYE specifically? I know you said it's to cater to the Latino community, but I know with us being a college-run magazine, obviously we have different perspectives, like younger perspectives than what is shown in media, which is like an older perspective of the Latino community. So what do you feel is our mission as a college bilingual magazine?
When we underwent the rebrand to ENYE, it's kind of what you said with, before I wouldn't say we weren't catering to the younger audience, but we weren't particularly reaching them. Mm-hmm. I think because the younger Latinos, it's not that they don't speak Spanish, but a lot of them use English predominantly, or they'll use Spanglish. And some of the older stories, actually, I think that they were not even something that only older audiences would be interested in, but rather there were maybe things on our covers or even just like the first couple of pages that were almost roadblocks. So for me, I can read Spanish pretty well, but because the magazine was only in Spanish, I knew I wouldn't be able to enjoy it as well as I would if I could read it in English.
Right.
So I would still support, but I would never find myself really being fully immersed into the stories that were in the magazine. Whereas now I can enjoy it in both languages and better enjoy it in Spanish because I can also read it in English.
Right.
And I think before too, we had a particular image, and I think the reason we had this particular image was because we had the title of Dig en Español. So in order to ensure that we could really differentiate ourselves and people would know, okay, we're not Dig, we had to make sure to really emphasize the Latino part over like the person themselves in the story. Right. I don't know if that makes sense.
Like just highlighting the culture that the person comes from.
Yes.
Right.
And it's not that that is a bad thing, but I think now we are taking the people, the subjects in our stories and emphasizing them before the culture.
Got it.
So although I would say our mission hasn't really particularly changed, our goal is always to highlight and shine light on the Latino community and all of the people who fall under the very large umbrella of Latino and Hispanic.
Right.
We want to do it in a way that highlights these people before just the culture, because Latino people, like I said, there's a very large umbrella of people who fall under the Latino identity and the Hispanic identity. Yeah. And we are all so different that before I almost feel like we were in a box, whereas now we can really break out of this box because we have our own name that people can identify us by and know, okay, this is the Latinx magazine. All the stories in here, they're going to be about the Latinx community. Yeah. I hope that makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense to me, but that's because I work for you guys. I mean, it's kind of similar to the mission of the podcast itself, because Escucha is what Megan and I used to call our quote-unquote serious segment, because we talk about social and political issues. And while that's really fun and important to discuss, there is still room in Latino pop culture for us to be everything aside from those social and political issues, like pop culture. And that's why Megan and I came up with Café con Chisme, because it gives our audience a break from all the heavy subjects and all the heavy things that us Latinos go through. And I feel like ENYE, as a magazine, also does that, because we do highlight serious issues within the Latino community, but we also don't shy away from who the person actually is. And I think we've done a really good job in executing that. I think what's coming up, we'll also do a good job of executing that, especially with the new theme, what is the theme for this coming magazine?
So our spring issue theme is True Persona. And it is something that came to me sort of randomly. I had a hard time picking a theme last semester because I didn't have any material until like 2 weeks before it was supposed to go to print. And that made it really hard to pick stories too. Last semester, I only got a select number of stories that were still good, but it did make it harder for me to create a theme. So then I had this excess number of stories at the end of the semester. Things that I wish I could have gotten sooner. But it's okay, because then I decided to roll over these stories and take inspiration for what students were already writing to come up with a new theme.
Okay.
And so from the stories that I had at the end of last semester, I read a couple and I picked the ones that were strongest to me. And I actually had a few different theme ideas, but I had narrowed it down to either Dreams Come True or True Persona. And there were different stories for both categories. And then at the beginning of this semester, actually a couple people from last semester decided to retake the course. You can retake the bilingual journalism course up to 2 times.
Okay.
And coincidentally, one of the stories that I had selected for True Persona, that person was in the class again. So I took this opportunity. I was like, okay, I feel like this is a sign. Because I didn't really want to publish work from the previous semester. I think that takes away from the people in the class in the current semester. Yeah. But because this person was taking the class for the second time, I felt okay with using their story in this issue. And so I was like, I think this is a sign. I will go with True Persona as a theme. And I honestly cannot really say there is a genuine moment where I was like, this would make it for a good theme. It's just something that I was reading the stories and I was just like, it just kind of, I was like, this would be cool, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't really, I feel like that's so underwhelming or disappointing, but sometimes people think of themes and they have like really cool ideas behind it. I mean, for me, I was just kind of like staring at a wall and I was like, oh, True Persona, that could be fun. Could be interesting.
Yeah. So what do you hope to execute with this theme? Like, what is the message you're trying to send?
I'm actually so excited for this issue because of this is going to be bad, but I didn't actually read the whole story. When I was reading the stories from last semester, the story that is the featured story, it's the cover story. It's like the big one. Yeah. I didn't actually finish reading it until like this semester when I was like, okay, time to sit down and like really get to editing. I got maybe through like halfway, but that's how good the story was to me. That I was
but you didn't finish it the first time.
So good. I did not read the whole thing, but I read like the first 3, 4, maybe 5 paragraphs.
But you knew you were tied in.
But I was like, oh, this is it. This is good. And I
saw the vision.
I even told Jenix, I was like, I think this could be a cover story. And Jenix is our creative director. She liked the story too. She's like, this is really good. Yeah. She talked to the photographer, Gulpi, that she wanted to work with. And she was like, Gulpi really likes this story. Like, we both really want this one. And I was like, okay, great. Because I want this one too. Cool. But because I had that theme now, I had True Persona, I went to the class and I told them, okay, this is the theme. So I think the nice thing about the theme is that a lot of things can fit under True Persona. Right. When you think of persona, but the textbook definition is the parts of yourself that you actively choose to present to others. It's the part of yourself that is perceived by others. So when I was thinking True Persona, I thought of this conversation I had with one of my bosses when I was only just an RA. And we were forced to do like these weekly check-ins, which I low-key dreaded, but I did like talking to my boss. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world. And we would just talk about life. And one time he was like, you know, Leila, your eyes really light up when you talk about like writing and when you talk about dancing and like these things that you love to do so much. And I was like, oh, really? That's kind of awkward. Like, I didn't know you could see the shit. Like, we'd be talking about work.
We can't cuss on the podcast. Oh. That was a rule given to me by Leila.
I didn't realize. But my boss, it was, like, funny because we would be talking about work, and he told me, he was like, we talk about work, and you're like, But then I just ask you about, like, your general life. Yeah. And when you talk about writing or dance, it's like a total switch. It's like a light switch. It's a mood change. And your eyes really light up. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Because he's my boss. So I was like, sorry that I don't talk the same way about work he said. And he was like, no, I like it. I'm glad that you have these passions.
I mean, it's good. Because you've spent 4 years of your life at least doing it. So if you didn't like it, there might be a problem.
You're right. But that's how I feel when I was reading the stories that I picked for the magazine. Not only could I feel the passion in the stories of the subjects that were written about, but the students' work as well, I could feel their own passion in the stories that they had written, and that they really cared about the stories, about the people that they had written about. So I think this issue is like, it's very emotional, it's very deep, and it's very inspiring. And I really cannot wait for everyone to read it because I am genuinely so proud of this semester's issue.
Right. So when is the release date for this issue?
Officially March 24th.
March.
It's Monday. And then our launch party is March 26th. So you should go.
So this episode is going to come out on March 18th. So you guys are getting an exclusive 1 week prior to release, 6 days prior to release date. I wish we had a picture that we could just...
Right, put it on the screen.
Like, that would be so fun. Okay.
Janix is working on the cover as we speak, so...
I know I invited her. I texted her. I was like, hey, I know this is last minute, but... And she was like, oh my God, I would love to. But I have to work.
She's deep in the design stage, so...
Yeah. And unfortunately, Liz as well couldn't make it. Just schedule conflicts. We're all very busy. And I was actually fortunate that you took time out of your busy schedule to come and appear on the podcast.
You know, anything for you, Abby.
Thanks. K-pop art. What do you hope that our readers gain from this issue that's coming up?
I hope that when people read the issue, that they are able to relate to the struggles and the passions and the successes of those people in the story.
Right.
And that it motivates them and inspires them to do the things that they want to do.
Or do you hope that they see themselves in it as well?
Yeah. When I was reading it, I thought, like, the stories are really beautiful. And it made me think about myself and my own life and how I could be more honest to myself and the things that I like and the things that I want to do. So I hope that other people get the same experience where they read it and they're able to reflect on themselves and grow in their own ways.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I'm very much looking forward to this issue. I don't think a lot of people understand. I don't really do anything with the actual magazine. Like in terms of stories and reading, I am my own entity here on the podcast. And I actually really like that because first, stress. It's not stressful for me at all. I just have to deal with my own stress on the podcast. But it also leaves that element of surprise to see what all my pretty much coworkers have decided to put out there and what my name is attached to. And it's very interesting because it's like you hear them talk about the vision and the stories and the people in these stories, and it's like, whoa, this sounds so cool. I have no idea what to expect. So it's very exciting. I'm very excited to see it. I'm very excited to participate in the launch party. I mean, I'm just very excited for this issue too, because it's like, it's not only an element of surprise for our audience, but it's also an element of surprise for me. So I'm very excited to see what's coming and to see how the cover looks and how this vision, this thing that I've only been hearing about, turns out. Because it's very exciting. Very mysterious.
It's beautiful. I love it so much already.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen all the design spreads, but I know it's good.
And it's funny because, like, when our fall issue was coming out, this is exactly how you were talking about it. And I was just like, I don't know, man. I'm showing up for my staff photo and leaving. And then it came out, and I was like, oh, my God, it's so cool. There's my staff photo.
And you know what? It won second place Best in Show.
Shout out. Yep.
That's how good it was.
Which is a big accomplishment because we are the first and only bilingual magazine within the Cal State system.
Yep.
And we play second.
Oh, yes. At ACP, those awards. Yeah. Best of Show for magazines, and that's four-year universities all across the nation. And as a bilingual publication and one that publishes stories about the Latinx community exclusively, is a huge win, not only for us, but for our community at large.
Yes. So everything that you're doing with the magazine, everything our team is doing with the magazine, it is so amazing because we get to highlight the younger generations of our community. And we get to highlight the stories that are often shadowed in mainstream media. So I'm very happy to be a part of this team and this entity. And it's just so exciting to be a part of and to see this come up. Yeah.
Yes. I'm happy you're here too. I'm so grateful every day that when I looked at the resume, that I was like, this one.
Thanks. Okay. Any final thoughts?
You know, when I was typing my letter from the editor, I was getting sad because it's only my second one, but it's also my last one.
Yeah.
But even though this has nothing to do with the topic at hand, I really want to say that I'm so thankful to everyone on my staff. I really could not have done any of this without any of you. And every day I'm so grateful that you guys are on my staff and that you deal with all my nonsense and all my messages that are scheduled at 8 a.m. All my scheduled text messages, or the ones that I do send you at 1 in the morning when I forget that it's 1 in the morning. And I forget that maybe I should have scheduled it instead for like 9:30 or something. But yes, everyone on my staff works so hard. And all of you contributed to those awards that we got this past weekend. And it only made me more proud of all of you and all the great things you'll do after you guys graduate. And it makes me sad that I won't get to work with all of you in this same setting anymore. It's like so sad, but
yeah. I mean, it's sad to see you go. I'll be here for another semester.
yes, you and Isabella can hold down the fort.
Yes. Yeah. It's very sad to see you and most of the team leave. You, Gen X,
90% of the
wow.
team. The anxiety of having to find replacements is... Actually, I will worry about me, Liz, and Isabella. Well, no, just me and Liz, actually. And then after that, everyone who gets hired after is the next EIC's and ME's decision.
Yeah.
So I only have to worry about 2 people, but I will still be worried because I care so much. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for the time I had as EIC. I'm grateful for all of you.
Thank you. I'm sure the team is grateful for you as well. I'm very grateful for you for this opportunity that I've been given. I just got here and you were like hired and I'm like, great. Here I am.
You were impressive.
Thank you. Thanks. Future hiring people.
Yeah, catch me writing your, what are they called on LinkedIn? The catch me writing 5 reviews for everyone on LinkedIn at the end of the semester.
We're gonna hold you to that. The minute you rock across the stage, hey, remember what you said in that one episode?
I'll be sitting in this Angel Stadium bleachers. I'll get a text from me. So when can I expect to see my review?
I need you to give me proof that I did that one thing.
I'll do it, I promise.
Thank you.
But you will probably have to remind me.
Alrighty. Well, that's all that I have for you guys this week on Escucha. Thank you so much to Leila for appearing on this episode and for appearing on the podcast yet again. We're very appreciative of you. And please follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. Our Instagram is ENYE_LB. Subscribe to us on YouTube and listen and follow us on Spotify. And stay tuned for a very special episode. We have many guests coming up. We have Elizabeth, actually, our managing editor, will appear next week on the podcast, as well as a couple of CSULB students. And we will also have SHIP and SHIPTINAs on the podcast, which is the Society of Hispanic and Professional Engineers. Look at me branching out to STEM people.
So exciting.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to those episodes.
I am too, because
favorite day of the week, Tuesday.
At 4 p.m.
At 4 p.m.
It's very exciting getting STEM people on the podcast because what do I know?
Latinos are geniuses, and they belong in the STEM community.
They are. I am not one of them.
Me either, but
we support you.
We still belong there.
Well, thank you so much again, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye-bye.